All right, Ryan, that red light came on. This is like high stakes podcasting. How you feeling over there? Are you nervous? Are you okay? You all right? Eh. All right, everybody. Let's jump into the actual episode. So I always love to start. I love to get your 90-second pitch. One, who are you and what does your company do?
Gosh, I mean, I'm Ryan Fernandez. Been really involved in the baby industry for quite a long time. I started with the company Boon, with a partner out of my home in Tempe, and it was incredibly successful. Still a very valid company out there. It was purchased by from me and in 2011. As part of that too was distribution of Bumbo, the Bumbo floor seat, and other products. Great company. They're based out of South Africa. We distributed them for a short while. And they were part of the sale. But then outside of the distribution, about 8 years ago, we actually purchased the IP and the rights to the company for all of North America, not North America, sorry, for the United States only. So it's a global company. We own the US IP, manufacturing rights, everything. I also own a factory in Mexico, which helps with production and operations.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I was excited to have this conversation because most time I'm talking to a founder who, built something from a 3D printed all the way up, right? And your story is a little bit different. So how do you think about just acquiring a product or just, hey, this makes sense in our, in just what our vision is? Just what are sort of the thought behind the scenes a little bit on this?
That's a great question. So Boon was homegrown, and so we had that and every single product that we had a very distinct DNA. So when Bumbo came and talked to us about distribution in the US way back in the 2000s, it was a very difficult one because we had to look at this going, we can't really see it in the Boon product line. It stands on its own. It's a
Hmm.
Bumbo product, but can we distribute it effectively? There's two things, right? One, we own the doors already with Boon, but two, it's a product that has already had a measure of success. So Bumble was a pretty easy one. Sometimes there's new products and you think, oh, this is a home run, and it's not, or you're like, I don't really know if it's going to be great, and it crushes it. I've got a great story on Boon if you're interested.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear but how do you, I guess, what are you thinking about in terms of a product? Are you looking for certain criteria? Is there a checklist you're kind of going through to say, hey, we actually think this would make sense for us?
Yeah, there's three items right off the bat. Is it unique? Is it, can it make money? And is it replicable? So those are the three questions in which we run it by right off the bat. And those are deep questions. So you got to kind of get into those a little bit heavy to understand it completely. If it is unique, solve some serious problems, and it can make money. So you've worked it backwards. You understand manufacturing. You understand all the different costs associated with it, and you can make money. And then three, can you be knocked off right off the bat? Or is there IP? Or can you protect it? Or is it just really difficult to make? So those are
Yeah.
the first three questions. And then, of course, then it comes down to, can we play in that space? Um, there's rights to play is what it's called. We talk about it. And so in Bumbo, where a baby puts its butt is where we like to play.
It's a great one. How much do you get into a history of a company like Bumbo before you're thinking about some of these decisions too? Does it play a big factor? Are there scenarios where you're looking at, past histories of sales, all this sort of stuff? I'm assuming the answer would be yes. Or do you look at this and go, I think, we can refresh a lot of this stuff. So maybe some of the historical data doesn't matter. I guess, how do you just sort of navigate historical data to what you think the future could look like?
It's a great question. I would love to tell you how smart I am. And so the latter, but it's very, very difficult to, at least for me, in the knowledge base and how things have changed so much, to take a product and go, okay, this is going to be a winner, just needs a refresh.
Hmm.
I love to look at past results. I want to see, does it have legs? What are people saying about it already? Does it have an established run rate? I know that the social media and direct to consumer has completely changed the game, where before is very simple. If you got into retail and the numbers were there, you had a successful product. But now it's completely changed. Yeah, it's all the above, but I personally, I've got to sit a little bit more on, is it already an established run rate company?
Right, right, right. W For I guess, so for a business model like this, and I obviously we're gonna get into why you're doing a fundraising campaign here in a minute, but as you're thinking about this, where are you going with, sort of, projections around for maybe like for a retail investor looking at this thinking, "Hey, I think, this is going to fit in these markets." Are you thinking about the investors at this stage of the game? Is that still a little bit too early? Are you still just thinking about more about product fit? But where does maybe the concept of investment or investors kinda coming in fit in a business model like this?
It's interesting. It's super different question, right? Where typically when you're doing ad spend or you're pushing all the meta buttons, you are looking at how to affect the product sales. And now we're running an investment campaign with crowdfunding. And so it is a different subset of people. And so you're constantly trying to hone in on who is that group of people that are interested in what you're selling. And right now we're actually selling a portion of the company instead of
Mm,
a seat. And so,
right.
yeah, you're 100% right. You know, I really think that it's still we're probably focused on. I man, it's so hard to say. I think that the numbers are still yet out to see who it's going to be. I think it's still around people who are using it, so they're passionate about it, or they've used it recently, or it just for some reason stuck in there going, man, I tell you what, every time I'm around somewhere, everybody has a Bumbo seat. And so it it does kind of cross over a lot of socioeconomic and socio-demographics that are not necessarily the case with somebody who has to buy for a newborn.
Right, right, right. Do you think about product roadmap at all in anything like this? Do you envision there being other products or helping them go to that? Or is it more along the lines of this is just the one product, this is what we're focused on and thinking about right now?
No, I think roadmap's huge. Both not just, I mean, it's a seat company. So we have the floor seat, we have the floor seat plus, we have the multi seat, we have the floor seat light. Then we have changing pad, we have different products, but at the same time, I think when you're looking at investment, investors want to see that you've got runway, that you do have a roadmap, that you have an idea of what you're wanting to do, not just so you're going to go, okay, we got this great product and now we want to market the heck out of it. I think it requires both. I think it requires a hero product, but then at the same time, a vision towards the future of being able to get on the shelf in different areas.
Yeah. So I want to talk. So for retail investors, and I don't want to talk specifically about this campaign right now, but what I want to talk about is if they're looking at this and maybe they have a newborn or they bought the product and that's as far as they've gone, but they're like, hey, I really love this and I think more parents should want this. I'm thinking about investing. What is actually like some expectations they should have? How does money get through you? Does it go on Amazon? Is it at at a Costco? Is it at Target? Like, how does this whole business even work for or potentially a retail investor to go, this is how it all works? Money comes into you, I get this. What is just sort of the plan they should be thinking about in something like this?
It's a great point. If they're looking at investing, say, into a similar situation,
Hmm.
so they're going, okay, what does this mean? Like, how do I get my money back? Well, how we function is you're looking at production costs, and so you're trying to make sure that you can produce the amount of product that you need to fit the demand, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
that's a problem. Because especially when you deal with say Chinese New Year
Mm.
or in different holidays and different production areas, we have ours down in Mexico, we have them here in the U.S. where things shut down, and so you have to kind of plan. Well, those are cash flow blips. So do you have the capacity and the capability in your production to get over those humps? So investors can go, okay, are my dollars being used towards capex, towards
Hmm.
inventory, towards getting ourselves to a position to be able to sell? Then from there, you're going, okay, now are my dollars being used to market these products into number one, is it going into, big box retail like Target,
Right.
Walmart? Is it going to Amazon? Is it going to our own direct to consumer
Hmm.
website focus there? And if so, what are the growth strategies on those fronts? Do we have new products going in? Do you have new colors? Do you have new, what's happening there? So then is that going to grow? And do you have a strategy of growth? So then as you build that and that profit comes in, oh my goodness, I invested in at a valuation of X, and now it's
Hmm.
X times two. That's pretty cool. I technically double my money minus taxes. That's pretty neat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's helpful. I think because a lot of times when we get into these equity crowdfunding campaigns, you're talking to people that just don't think this space. And I think, again, you have a unique model that I might love the product. I know for myself, we had this product 15 years ago when I had my son. I haven't thought about it since then until I saw this campaign. I might not, well, where do I get my money back from this? Even though I may have liked the product or whatever it is. So I think that's really, really helpful. How do you think about competition right now in your space? What would an investor kind of think about regards to that? Because it is a product that has been established. What does competition look like?
I mean, competition is pretty high. Really quick though, I wanted to go back to your previous question. The way that investor gets their money back though, typically doesn't come in form of dividends or they take you take cash because you're always building on that brand. So what happens is that it's an event. And so the biggest thing is kind of recognizing what is the exit strategy of a company. So are they planning on selling eventually? Well, everybody's planning on selling eventually. If they're not looking for money. And if they are looking for money, then they better have a dividend strategy and be able to say, okay, you can count on an annuity based in a dividend. For us, and for most companies, it's an exit. Understand the exit. If you understand the exit, like, oh, okay, gosh, it's a 5-year plan, it's a 3-year plan, it's a 7-year
Hmm.
plan, 10-year plan. So just needed to be able to say that. So then a person kind of go, okay, I'm investing in this, they make more money. How do I get my money?
No, I think it's crystal. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. Again, yeah, there is it's more complicated than just buying a seat at Walmart, right? At the end
It
of the
is
day, right?
that's a fact. So back to your question on competition. So Bumble really just owned the space for so long,
Yeah.
and we really took it for granted because it was such a powerful entity that for the longest time, for the past 10 years, we really focused on operationally honing our skills, like making sure getting production in the right places,
Hmm.
getting shipping down figured out, all these different things. And we really kind of went, well, we're Bumbo. We don't have to worry too much about talking to our customers and talking to moms and talking to grandparents and telling them why this seat is still the best in the market. So while we didn't do that, and mix in COVID and sorts all different things, we had different competitors kind of coming in and just carving out market share.
Mm.
And so we've really had to kind of look in the mirror and say, it's time for us to say, we are still the best, and this is why. And we actually have, a lot of data around that, and we're going to take back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things too that, I know when I was Googling and getting ready for this interview, I noticed that there was some sort of pushback on the product itself at some point. How did you sort of, as somebody who works in this space, kind of stand back, take that information and start addressing it to the public and say, no, that study is not quite right. But just sort of how did you navigate some of that PR stuff?
How are we navigating? Because before we just ignored it because we were Bumbo. Very
Hmm.
much. I mean, we're a case study of failure, quite honestly. But now what we're doing is we're going to take our voice back. And that is the first thing we did is, we hired an expert and the pediatric, not a pediatric, a orthopedic spine surgeon, and sat down with him and said, hey, this is what's being said about our product. And in lots of ways, the way they said it and the people behind it, we were thinking, man, they had data and we're going to have to make some structural changes to the product to address it. Well,
Hmm.
he went out, spent a ton of time studying. He's 25-year vet too. The guy is a stud in Phoenix. And he came back and he said, and he was at our annual meeting down in Phoenix, and he came back and said, there is fundamentally zero data that backs up what your competitors are saying about your product. Your product is just fine. In fact, it's still the product of choice. It is no seat is going to fix any baby's spine. And only seats that the parent sticks them in for too long, any seats are going to affect them. And I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never treated a person because they sat in a Bumbo seat. And so that really changed our thoughts. We're like, holy cow, we thought that we were going to have to look at really redesign. Instead, it was like, no, we actually have to start talking about this.
Hmm. Yeah. I always find that's the best too, man. Is I've worked in PR quite a bit in my life, and just tell your story, and lead with that, and don't worry about some other Facebook post, or some groups from somewhere, because man, who knows where that's coming from. I want to move over to some KPIs right now. So right now, what are some of the metrics you want to measure over this next maybe 6, 12, 18 months that you're really looking at in terms of the growth that you want to hit?
Oh man, it really for us, because we're so heavily based in retail, it's all pretty simple. We just launched a new product, the Floor Seat Plus, that addressed a few of our major issues, which is
Hmm.
mainly the size of the leg holes because American babies have got bigger and bigger. Um, they were just chubby babies, and that's just the way it is. So we had these small legs, and so our number one complaint was, man, they lasted a week in it before they couldn't fit anymore. So we launched the Floor Seat Plus at Target. It was they had an exclusive. It comes off of exclusive in 11 days, but we watched and organically, without any marketing behind it, the sales just beginning to climb. So for us, we got a product, it's a winner. So now the KPIs really are determined now on how our marketing programs work, what buttons are we pushing, and how much can we push new products and also get Bumble back into the spotlight and not behind the scenes. sales at retail. Amazon numbers, obviously, it's a subset of your direct to consumer. And then we're launching our direct to consumer site and focusing on it quite a bit. And so that will be a pretty easy metrics to follow as well.
Yeah. How do you balance quality, cost, scalability of manufacturing? How do you sort of balance all of that at the end of the day?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, that is the toughest one. Post-COVID, a lot of material was really, really difficult to get. Bumbo seats are insanely difficult to make. So part of the reason why is it easily replicable. Everyone has tried to make a Bumbo seat, and it's made out of the material that is, I mean, it's almost every piece is almost a work of art. So during that post-COVID time, we were lacking material, and so we pushed out some product that we were not really happy with from a quality standpoint, but we're like, you know what? It's probably good enough. People like it. We got spanked. I mean,
Mm,
and
mm,
it's like people expect a certain quality and they want things to look a certain way. And we learned a lot about ourselves. We also learned, even if you're selling direct consumer through Amazon, they still want to see a package. So you can't just throw it in a box, in a bag, and it's fine. They need to feel like, hey, you actually have a little bit of pride in your product, and I bought a product for X amount of dollars and it needs to be good. So it is always a balance of how to do it. But what we learned is you skimp on the wrong thing and you're going to pay the price.
yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about maybe your leadership. And as you've kind of, gone through some of these challenges, what have you learned as an entrepreneur, as a founder? That's sort of maybe some of your backbone, how you're thinking about some of these things as you navigate some of the challenges you mentioned on this interview.
Biggest thing I've learned is I better change all the time. Um, I, there's a time in my life where I felt like I had the keys of the kingdom. I knew
Hmm.
exactly how to take a product from conception to success, and not many people knew all those pieces. Well, that was true for about 10 seconds. And then all the rules change, and they change methodically, and they change over time, and it's consistent. And if you're not on top of things, if you don't have kind of a more of a personality like you, Jeff, where you're just constantly testing and constantly going at it,
Yeah.
then it's difficult. Now, but there's a curse to that too. And you
Yes,
probably
there is. There is.
there's a curse to it. And the curse is that you can never set on something because it's always on to the next thing. Where my personality too is like, okay, you set on it and then you perform, but then
Sure.
you better start moving again. And so it,
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of both, and it's hard. It's a
Yeah.
tough managing those two.
Yeah, I would say if you looked at my mid 20s to about 35, I would be a constant state of pivoting. I was moving forward, but slowly.
Employee, and the guy was absolutely genius, but he couldn't close. He was just constantly, I mean, he had Post-its all over his wall. He had brilliant ideas, one after another. And I'd be like, hey, execute it. He couldn't execute it because he was just constantly moving on to the next.
Yep, yep. Well, let's talk about team. What kind of team do you have around you? What does it look like? I mean, and how do you put people kind of around you to help balance you out?
I try to put a team around me, number one, that will balance my optimism. And I'm a salesman. And so
Hmm.
I can do, or we can do anything. And sometimes that's just not the reality. And so I usually have somebody very close to me that'll say, Ryan, that is not realistic. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? You may think it's not, but we'll get there. And
Yeah.
so there is the piece where the optimism but at the same time, maybe there's that night I look in the mirror and go, yeah, he's 100% right. And so you gotta, so it's people who will temper, but it's also people who are very positive as well. Just having a bunch of naysayers and negative people around you, it absolutely crushes and stymies growth and potential to overcome the obstacles that are there. Obstacles are always there.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because I have one of my number one people inside Bumbo. She has gone through those fluctuations, where she's so brilliant and she's so good at what she does. But if she allows herself to really get into what is our macroeconomic state, our macro political state, our all the different things we are fighting right now, then you can walk yourself down into a pretty dark hole.
Oh, yeah.
And we sat down and we talked about it. And I said, I totally get it, but it's not what we need. we need the positivity. We need reality, but we
Mhm.
need positive energy pushing that forward. So I'd say positive energy and realism to help offset me.
Yeah. So I know we mentioned a couple of times here about the fundraising campaign. I want to talk a little bit about maybe the thought pattern or some of the conversations. What led you to start Engine? What led you to behind the scenes to say, hey, we should try this. We should try to do a community round. What was just some of the conversations behind the scenes on it?
Most of the raises I've done in the past have always been friends, family, and fools, but at a pretty high level. And so
Hmm.
I don't want to have a million conversations. And so I want to be typically no one's really given less than, $250,000 to a piece to get percentages ownership of the business. I'm lucky enough to have quite a few people in my life to be able to have those conversations. Well, I've had quite a few where people say, man, I'd love to get involved in that, but I'm not doing it. I'm not going to spend the time and energy and effort for the documentation, for all the work at
Hmm. Hmm.
at those lower levels. So that's one piece of it. I was talking to a friend of mine in the baby space, and he did a raise. I'm like, "Well, what'd you use?" And he said, "Start Engine." I said, "Really?" And he kind of talked me a little bit. He goes, I said, "Well, it's like a Kickstarter." He goes, "Kinda, but
Hmm.
it's different because you actually get ownership, and it's UCC, and there's so much involved in what that is." And so, and I said, "Was it successful?" He goes, "Yeah, I won my third raise." And so
Hmm.
and then that answered then the question of, hey, people who've always wanted to be a part of this that can't because they can invest $250 because they're 21 years old or whatever. Now they can play a part in this, and that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you sort of see fundraising in general for this business? Not just this raise, but just how do you sort of navigate the conversations around fundraising outside of just this round, future rounds? And do you sort of have a plan in your mind as to equity you want to give up or thought patterns? How do you just sort of think about it so it's not just sort of willy nilly? We're just going to raise some money and get on a platform. How do you just think about fundraising in general?
It's the end goal. And so what is the end goal? So where's your exit strategy? What's the number that you have in mind? You better have a number. And if you have a number, what's it going to take to get there? So, we're a profitable business. And so if you're profitable, you can be organic in that growth, or you're going to have to raise. And raising comes in two forms, right? Debt is not evil. And so especially if you want to continue to control. But equity is beautiful because you don't have debt financing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
at the same time, you're giving up a piece of that. So for me, I mean, looking at the end goal in mind, um, it totally depends on how successful a marketing strategy is. If it's not, we're prepared for a second raise. Would it be a crowdfunding type of raise? Probably not. It'd probably be
Hmm.
more in the world of going back into the angels, friends, family, and fools, and really looking at that group of that subset and doing it. That would be a need only base type of thing because I really think that we are positioned now to make a pretty big move in 26.
Yeah. What's keeping you up at night around for the business? Is there sort of a common theme, maybe even outside of raising capital? Because everybody wants to raise money, but just how do you sort of think about, objections or pain points and what's keeping you up?
Tariffs.
Yeah. I was wondering if we're
I
gonna get
mean,
to that one. Yeah.
I mean, I 10 years ago in a person's life, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I'm 51. I've been pretty successful in my life. And I always knew it fell on me that no matter what, I could be successful, no matter what, because nothing out there had really shown its teeth in a way that could put me down. These past, these past, like I said, 10 years ago, these past 6, 7 years have been absolutely brutal in trying to navigate the macro environment, be it COVID, be it the response to COVID, which was pretty brutal, be it, what's happening from a tariff perspective to even the political aspects of countries versus countries. And
Hmm.
you try to diversify out your operational piece to be nearshored in North America. But so tariffs every single day, so tariffs, and then what else is going to happen that's going to cause your world to completely, I never say implode because there's always opportunity. There's opportunity in disaster, and so
Hmm.
and it's it has been difficult.
Yeah. How about the positive thing? Is it been any new positive things that have happened recently that have just kind of, you know, keeping you moving forward in a good direction?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things we touched on a little bit, launching a new product that obviously resonates with the public
Mhm.
feels really good.
Yeah.
So when 4C Plus hit Target and you just watched it doing this, that was awesome because that is incredibly difficult, especially when still have zero voice out there and we're not talking on social media. So that was
Right.
one I was like, whew, we're selling product. This is great. And number two, it is the recognition that we've got a really cool product that is actually really, really good still. And that story needs to be told. And so we've got a runway in front of us if we do it right. And we've got new colors out. We've got an excited set. And so
Mhm.
that's great. I mean, if you don't have that, then you might as well pack it in.
Sure. Yes. Better said, yeah. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Where should people sort of jump in if they want to learn more, maybe about the company itself, maybe the raise? Where should we send people?
The biggest thing is startengine.com/Bumbo. That's the raise. And then, go to your local Target, go to your local Walmart, jump on Amazon and look around you, talk to people. Bumbo is the seat. It's the best product out there. All the chatter out there is just that. It's chatter. And we'll bring you a great product. And a
Well,
great investment if you want to invest in it, because it's a great company and we've got nowhere to go but up right now.
yeah, it's great. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. For all of our listeners out there, you guys know I'm gonna have all the links in the show notes, so make sure you go and follow that, whether it's on YouTube or our newsletter or even out on socials. Just go there, click on the links, go check it out. Ryan, appreciate you taking time out of your day. This was a great conversation. I know the product. I have had the product when I had my kids were little. We are past that day, but I don't see the future. But I know the product. I know we used it well, and we loved it over here when I had my kids. So again, thank you again so much for your time. And again, investors, go out there, check it out, and see what you like. Thanks.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Appreciate it.